you have to move forward from there in some type of strategic way. And that strategy has to happen first. So that's one of the biggest.
Hey everyone, happy Thursday. Hope everyone is doing well. For all of you on the East Coast, I hope everyone is safe and you have power. I know it was tough for us. We didn't have power for a while, so that was a little bit of an issue. No power and no cell service. I mean, it was one of those things that you'd never really kind of know that that would be a bad thing. But then when you don't have it, it's really very frustrating. So today we have Aleya with us. There she is. How are
Hi,
you?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Okay, first of all, can I just tell you, I love your hair. If I could get my
Oh,
hair,
thank you.
oh my
It
goodness,
was a big hair, don't care kind of
I
day
love
today.
it. I love it. I don't like my hair, like you could put like 5 million. I have to do a wig if that like there's like no place for extensions to go. It's just like I have nothing.
I have a lot of hair, and sometimes it's like, oh, I have a lot of hair.
I love
And
it.
other times it's like, oh, I have a lot of hair.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad that you are safe and you're well lit. Uh, my goodness gracious.
Like, usually like if we lose power like for a minute or something, it comes back on. Oh no. It was like, I guess it's gonna be a while. So it's like break out the
You're
board
like,
and
right, board games, candles, books, what am I doing?
I was like, this is crazy. And then I was like, I don't want to open the fridge because I don't want to like
Right, you want to keep it
but
cold.
so then I'm like, what should I have for dinner? Maybe some wine with a couple crackers.
That sounds like a salad with a
I know.
bread on the side, a grape salad.
It's like a great, exactly. It's a grape salad with like
Totally.
of antioxidants. It's like cancer fighting. That's what I was thinking.
Absolutely. In fact, that was probably the healthiest choice of the moment.
That's what I think. See, we're totally on the same page because I'm like,
Definitely on the
wine is,
same page.
yeah, wine is a good dinner. Oh my
I
god.
know. Recently, I was speaking at Nace Phoenix, and it was cocktails and conversations, and they had a cocktail experience first, and they were teaching us how to make French 75s. So now that's my new kick. So it's gin and champagne and simple syrup and lime juice. And instead of using simple syrup, I use Saint Germain. Oh, it's so good. But then I used Tanqueray, so it was a little bit stronger than I expected it to be.
You're like, this is great, baby.
I was like, okay, normally like I drink whiskey neat. That's my thing. I love whiskey, but I was like, oh, this little drink. I got halfway through the drink. I said, this is gonna be the only drink I have for the evening. It was put me on my butt, but I slept really well.
Yeah, let me tell you, that's the thing. Especially like, I think it's funny because now that, we have all this extra time and everyone, I mean, normally this time of year, we would all be going on like 0 hours of sleep, like right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So it's kind of like it's a totally new, like a whole new world. Like it's a really like a totally new experience. And it's like I kind of like it. But I mean obviously missing everything else, but it's kind of nice to like our vacation we never asked for.
Right. I mean, you have to see the bright side of everything, right? Because if you don't, then you just lay there grumpy,
Right?
right?
Right.
And what I mean, life is already difficult enough right now. Let's not add grumpiness to it,
Exactly.
right? It just doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, for anyone who doesn't know, why don't you tell us a little bit about Flourish Marketing and kind of your background so that they can kind of get to know you a little bit better.
Sure thing. So my name is Aleya Harris. I am the owner of Flourish Marketing. Flourish Marketing is a marketing agency that helps wedding events and catering professionals get and keep a consistent stream of clients. So we do everything from website design to social media solutions, and I have a bunch of education platforms that I'm popping out. I have a new course popping out next week, actually. So I'm
Oh,
so excited about it.
That's awesome. So people can be able to, kind of revamp what they're doing and obviously be able to increase the consistent clientele. I think it's one of those
Yeah.
things people, I mean, it's hard. That's the key to having a business. You need people to actually pay.
Yes. Otherwise, it's just a hobby.
Exactly.
Right. And I don't know about you, but this is a little hard working of a hobby, right?
Oh,
You're not like, I'd like to be a wedding planner or a photographer because it's just a hobby. I'd like to do it full time. But I also need to eat and pay rent and
no, no, no.
all that good
Fine,
stuff.
fine. And
Yeah.
maybe,
Just
maybe
work on your wrist articulation.
yes, exactly. Just that. That we're good. And so I think one of the things that's really, I mean, obviously we've been talking about it a lot. And I think part of it too, there's a lot of people who are really kind of realizing and reevaluating their own marketing and wanting to incorporate diversity, which I love. I think that's so awesome.
Yeah.
But it's also really easy if you don't know where to start, what to do, to make like huge mistakes that actually do the opposite of what you want to do, or kind of turn off people, or it's not effective. Because I know that I mean, you've been speaking all over, you've done a ton of webinars. What are some of
Girl,
the
yes.
that's an understatement. You're like, and another webinar. Here we go. Yeah. But so what are some of those things that people should kind of be aware of to not do? Because I think one of those things, like they're like, okay, I'm ready to do it. Give me the checklist. What should I do? And I think sometimes they don't think about the things they shouldn't do.
Right, right. Well, the first thing that you should not do is come out and say something just because you feel like you're supposed to. That's when I see people come into the most trouble, if you want to say it that way, right? They say, "Oh, well, everyone's coming out into the world with something. I need to say something." And then what happens is there's a couple things that happen. You say something that's not genuine,
Mhm.
right? You don't actually mean it. It doesn't align with your brand. It doesn't really align who you are. Or you say one thing, and because it's not thought through, it doesn't continue. Even if it's great, it's wonderful, it's the most epic social media post about the Black community you could ever have written. One social media post a movement does not make.
No.
So you have to move forward from there in some type of strategic way, and that strategy has to happen first. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see. And then another mistake is expecting Black people to give you your message for you. So if you're really about being an ally and you're really about diversity, the onus of the education lies on you, my friend.
Yeah.
I love educating. It's literally what I do for a living. But when it comes to my own Black female experience, the only person I can truly talk about is Aleya Harris, and I can give you some pointers on some shared identity, but you need to do the work. Read the books, talk to sociologists, talk to ethnographers, do what you need to do. Racism is not a Black problem, it's a everybody else problem. We didn't raise our hand one day. I was like, you know what? You should hate us. That seems like what is today? Thursday? Yeah, it's the perfect day for that. Like, no, we didn't, that's not how this works, right? People decided on their own that Black people were inferior, not great, whatever, we're gonna hate you. It's then your problem if
Right.
you want to fix that system, right? It's not my responsibility to fix you. You need to take your own responsibility for your emotional state.
Exactly.
I'm getting off my soapbox now, but that would be
I
the second biggest issue that I see.
that is definitely, and I think one of the things too, like going back to what kind of your first point of like, you can speak to your experience, but it's one of those things that just because systemic racism sees all Black people as the same, therefore we're going to treat them all as inferior,
Yeah.
and that their experience is all the same. Like you can't just be like, oh, well, that's like the token Black person who's going to speak on behalf of all Black people. The same way you'd never do that like for a white person or
Right. And it's not expected either, right? It sounds so odd. Well, of course her experience is not just like his experience. Why would I think that? We're also different. We're humans. We're humans having a human experience. Like you hear that kind of stuff, right? And I'm like, so why would you think that Black people, Asian people, LGBTQ, why would you think anybody is any
right,
different than that, right? But they do, because all they see is the Blackness. They don't see the fact that my favorite candy is Mike and Ike's, or that, I'm in love with my husband. They don't see none of that, right? They see the Blackness, and then they put everything in one box.
right. And I think that
Mhm.
that's a really, it's an interesting point because it only goes back to the fact that it's not a Black problem. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it's not that Black people don't understand that they're just as different, like individuals.
My favorite is when people have read the book and then they educate me on racism. That's my favorite. Because there's all of these, white people are getting educated, which please do, please educate yourself. But then they coin a new term and they coin a new phrase, and then they say, well, let me tell you about that experience. And it's like, please do. I'm always open to be educated, but your book education is not going to compare to my real life as a Black person.
Right.
The
Because
goal of an ally is not to then take over the conversation and center it on how much of a hero you are and become that white savior. The goal is to understand as best you can what I'm going through and then come alongside of me, right?
exactly. And the parallels, I just find it's not humorous, but I find it ironic that the parallels between, whether it's systemic racism, racial injustice, pride, like LGBTQ,
Mm-hmm.
it's not any different than anything else you'd ever learn in your life. It's like if you were going to learn French, I don't speak
Right.
French. And so if I wanted to learn about French, I'm not going to be like, oh, let me I'm going to do this Duolingo thing. And then I'm going to tell you, you speak French. I'm going to tell you, you live in France. Let me tell you about
You
France.
were born and raised in France, but let me tell you about your
Let me
language.
tell you about, yeah. No, I'd be like, I did this thing and I have no idea if I'm doing this right. Can you help me? Or is this right?
Right.
I mean, and I
Right.
would,
Or now you have the tool to be able to communicate with someone that you might not have before, and it's enriching both of your experiences. But no one's above anyone else, right? It's you're going into it not to try to be a savior, you're trying to make a connection, and that's the big difference, right? That was a great analogy.
oh, if you're learning about business or you're learning about, anything in the world, like if you don't know about it, you can't like read one book or hear one thing and then be like, oh, well, let me tell you. Well, that's not how learning works. I mean, if you've learned anything in your life,
That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
exactly. Exactly. Oh my God. Those are the things that like really frustrate me because it's like, how all of a sudden does your brain gonna stop working the way that it works in every other aspect of your life unless you really don't fully understand that you have been inundated, you have been, programmed in a way to think this way. Not saying that, no one's like, pointing fingers and saying like you should get the guillotine. Like
No.
it's like, okay, but you have to take personal responsibility that like I need to figure out what I don't know and learn
Right.
things the same way that you would anything else, and then be like, okay, let me take, take a step back, have some humility, understand that maybe I don't know everything and then move from there instead of like you said, like, oh, I'll tell you. I can't like
I'll
that.
tell you.
I can't, I
Yeah.
can't, I can't think, like, it's so beyond.
It's a little bit wacky that people do that, but at the same time, I understand from a certain perspective why that happens. It's your fear and then the expectation that you should know. So how did you notice, like, so you're a little kid and you start riding a bike. No one expects a little kid to know how to ride a bike in the very beginning. And you're not like, oh, 6-year-old, ha ha ha, how dare you fall, right? That's, first of all, that's super cruel. And I don't feel like that any grown adult should be treating kids like that. But if you notice, though, if you never rode a bike for your whole life and you learned as an adult, you would expect yourself to be good the first time. You don't allow yourself that same space to mess up, and other people don't allow you to do that either. So then when you learn something new, you feel like you need to be an expert right in the beginning. There's a less space. People have not carved out that space for themselves to say, I actually don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm learning. Being an expert is cool. Learning somehow is not, which is crazy to me, right? That all that does is create a bunch of empty experts. But that, I think, is the mentality that fuels the, oh, now I've read a book, now I'm an expert, because you feel like you have to be. There's shame because people feel like where have they been? They haven't been paying attention. Now I need to know, and now I'm an expert, and I have to use my knowledge somehow. So I get the psychology, but you have to be aware of that to not do that.
Right.
Because all you're doing is make yourself look foolish, truthfully.
But you're so right, because it is. As an adult, you feel like, A, I should be able to learn this really quickly because, I'm a smart adult. And then B, I don't really make mistakes because I'm an adult.
Right.
And whether you're a business owner, you're a parent, it's like you get in this certain kind of role of like, okay, I can figure that out, and then I'm going to make good decisions. Like, I'm not going to make mistakes. And I think that's dangerous no matter what. Like, it does, again, whether it's racism, it's about your business, it's about anything. Just thinking that, like, okay, I get it. Now I'm good. And
right.
You're probably not. And again, there's nothing wrong with not being okay, like falling.
Right.
Like not being okay, but you have to be the one to like take ownership of that. And that's exactly what you were saying. Like, I love that. That's so true. So true.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that people in general, white fragility is basically a lack of ownership over your own emotional space when it comes to racism. It's basically this is the Aleya definition. It's basically you putting up a wall in front of yourself because you're trying to protect your own ignorance and you're trying to protect your own shame, and you're not going to take responsibility for any of your own crap. So you're going to put outside of yourself, oh no, but I'm not sure if I'm strong enough to have this conversation, and how dare it be wrong, and blah, blah, right? And then you basically are saying, don't talk to me about this because I'm not strong enough, and how dare you bring this to me. And then you faint in the corner, right? So all of it is really about ownership, emotional ownership of the fact that you are going to stand in your own awareness about what's happening right now, and stand in a place of non-judgment. Judgment, like, okay, we all judge ourselves. We all judge ourselves. We all judge everybody else. We're super judgy as human beings, right? But when you judge yourself to the point where you're using it as a tool to deny doing the work, that's when you're like, well, white fragility checked off again, right? Because you're saying, oh no, but I'm so horrible, I'm so bad, oh my ancestors, oh, my great-grandfather was a slave owner, oh, my whole line is just ruined. Like, you start doing all of that crap, and really what you end up doing is then not saying, okay, all of that might be true, but right now, what am I doing? How do I feel? I'm now aware. What does that mean for me moving forward? Who do I want to be? What do I want to be known for inside of this conversation and in general in life? You're not always going to have the same awarenesses as everybody else at the same exact time. I'm a StoryBrand certified guide, and StoryBrand is a really cool system for doing narrative-based marketing. And I was inside of a guide group, and we were talking about racism. And there's this one woman who, God bless her, she was so brave because she's a white woman in white, middle of Whiteville. And she said, I don't understand what the issue is. Can someone please tell me what the issue is? And everyone was silent, but then we started getting into the conversation. But she owned that she didn't know, and owned that she needed to do the work, but needed someone to point her in the right direction. And it's okay to be that person.
Totally.
You just need to know that you are and not say, oh, but I'm so horrible for not knowing. Then you'll always not know,
Right, right.
right? Move forward. We're tired of you not knowing. Move forward. It's no longer an excuse. Like, look at the New York Times bestseller list. It's all about Black people. Go pick one and start there. Or you can do what I did. Oh, it was like the best moment ever. I watched Beyonce's Black is King
Oh,
and felt like, honey, you couldn't tell me
yeah.
nothing, a thing
Yes.
about being a Black woman. I was done watching that movie.
Seriously.
Those are the narratives that we need. Celebrating Black people, not just talking about slavery. Yes, we know. It's a blip in the history of Black excellence. Slavery still affects Black Americans every single day, no matter how privileged you are, how underprivileged you are. However, we also come from kings, queens, philosophers, mathematicians. Did you know the Moors helped end the Dark Ages in the Europe, right?
Yes.
Like you need to learn about those types of things and celebrate who we are, and not just read about black slavery and feel good that you watch Roots.
First of all, you should not feel good that you watch Fruits. This is
I never feel good when I watch Roots.
oh my goodness. I just remember being like in junior high, being like, this is horrible.
What's happening?
Yeah. No. Yeah. But that's exactly it. Like understanding that narratives that only talk about Black slaves instead of actually celebrating Black excellence and history. I mean, this is
Right.
it's not made up. This is like real history, people. Like, and
And it started before slavery.
I know.
I know, spoiler alert, Black people existed before slavery. I'm not sure that I just like blow everyone's mind. I know, right? It's crazy to think about it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Oh my goodness. But those are the things, like, because it's only continuing the narrative that they are a lesser, like this is a lesser human. I don't, it doesn't like,
Right.
you know,
And they deserve pity. So I'm gonna go save them. They're like the starving poor babies in Africa. That's what Black people want, is my pity. No, we don't want your pity. We want just to be invited to the dance and asked to dance. We want to be included in the conversation and respected for who we are as individuals and our humanity. I don't care whether you have convictions, you have a felony, you are a prostitute, you are a business owner, whatever it is, none of who you are negates your humanity and your right to be in your human body on this planet as a Black human being. And that's what we're trying to say. That's that conversation. Oh, well, another Black man shot. Well, but did you know that back in 1999, he stole a pack of gum? He's a horrible person, right? And it's like, wait, what? Where did that come from, right? All of a sudden, someone steals a pack of gum, they deserve to be shot dead in the street? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And those are the conversations that we're talking about. All of this started with police brutality. By the way, you still need to arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
So we're running through this conversation. It's sparking these beautiful, beautiful conversations with everyone. I love it. I love it. I love it. In NACE, it's sparking beautiful conversations. I love it. I love it. I love it. However, we also need to deal with those systemic issues that continue to this day to affect Black people.
yeah. And I think it's so important that, I mean, those are the things that I try to encourage, you know, white folks that I talk to, and they're like, I don't know what else to do. And I'm like, well, first of all, use your white privilege.
Yes, ma'am.
Call your senators, call your representatives, call your governors, tell them, be like, hey, guess what? This is my name, this is where I live, and I'm white. And I'm not going to vote for you again if you don't do this thing. You don't arrest the cops who killed Breonna? Yeah, not voting for you.
Right.
Enough white people picked up the phone, wrote an email, sent a tweet. And those are the things that I think it's so important, because prior to this, I feel like in many ways it was like, oh, you want to protest? Go protest in your own neighborhoods. It's like, guess what?
Do it quietly.
Yeah. Do it quietly. Let people know they're being brutalized by the police. They don't need to inform themselves. Like they're not like trying to tell themselves about, like, they know this. This is not new.
Right, right. The goal is for other people to know it so that it stops.
Yes.
Right? We have been educated and miseducated enough, right? Oh, that reminds me. There's a really cool website called blackhistorystudies.com, and they're based in the UK, because I had to take it upon myself, because I was like, okay, well, I was miseducated right around with everybody else. I don't care how woke I am. Let me figure out what I don't know. And I didn't want to know any more about slavery. I got it. Check. I wanted to know all the other stuff, and they have on that website, they offer webinars that are like they're based in the UK, so they're £5 or €5 or something like that. And they talk about like Black women contribution throughout the history of Europe, the African empires before the Egyptian empire, or in addition to the Egyptian empire. It's things like that where I was like, oh, okay, this is making a lot more sense now as to what happened. We didn't just poof and land in shackles in the Middle Passage. Like, that's not how that worked. So I would just encourage people, like, do the education that makes you educate yourself until you feel compelled to do something. Because you're saying, I love what you said about call the people in charge and tell them. But if you don't feel prompted yet to do that, you must not know enough. Right. Because there is so much out there that would make me feel prompted to do it if it was another group of people. And I stand up for people all the time. I'm donating money. I'm talking to people. And if you don't feel like you need to do something, keep reading, boo.
Yeah.
Right? You're just not there yet.
Exactly. And those are the things that, I mean, everything you're about, everything I'm about, it's all about education. And in order to grow, to be something more than what you were yesterday, 20 years ago, hopefully to be more than what we are in 2020. We gotta get going, people. Like, let's do this, because it's like you have nothing but time right now. You have nothing but time. You have no other reason to say that I'm not going to make my business better. I'm not going to learn about racial injustice. I'm not going to learn about Black history, like excellence, slavery, like understanding all of those things and being like, I just don't have time.
Right. Well, that's not the reason. Right?
At this point, like, you're out of excuses. And that's where I'm like, oh, you're not compelled yet? Okay, fine. Well, then do this one thing. Just call your senator. Because guess what? You don't have to be extra compelled to be like, hey, I'm a white person and this is what I believe. They don't, like, it's another call for them. They like write it down on a tally, put it down. I'm like, just do something. Because sometimes, like, that extra action, then they're like, oh, I have to take ownership of the action I just did, which means part of who I am, and I have to somehow come to grips with that. Maybe I should learn more. So what was that one thing?
Oh, I love that. I love that. Act your way into your next action, right? That's what that is.
Well, you make it. It's like understanding that sometimes you have to take those small steps that you're like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. Guess what? When you make a call, there is tons of scripts that you can read online. Like, you can be like, hi, my name is, it's like literally written out for you. You can read that and say it. And guess what? You do it enough times, it becomes natural. You realize that that's part of what's important to you because you said it out loud. You made it
right. Right. No, I love that. And you also donate. Call people and then donate to Black Lives Matter. Donate to the Equal Justice Initiative, right? EGI.org.
I love that.
Make a huge difference by empowering those that are really in the trenches in the fight. And use the platform that you have. I'm a speaker. Look what I'm doing today. Right? We're sitting here talking. It's what I do. It's already part of who I am. Maybe you're not a speaker. Maybe you're a photographer. Go out and see what kind of Black stories can I tell through my lens, right? Maybe you're a graphic designer. Maybe I could put out a free bundle of graphics for social media telling people about Black stories and share it, just put it out into the world, right? use the talent that you have to make a difference. You were given that talent for a reason, and it's not just to make money. Well, especially not right now, right? Use the talent that you were given to have your voice be heard. And then you're also, if you want to be selfish about it, you humanize yourself, right? It's no longer just about the pretty pictures of weddings that you have on your feed. You're actually like, oh, wait, this person stands for something. And people get behind people that stand for something. It makes them be able to relate to you and also see that you have integrity in a whole different level. Yes, of course, they make assumptions. Well, they're going to show up for my events, but they're transparent with their billing and their contracting. Yeah, cool. So is everyone else. But when you're really doubling down on that integrity piece, that's what people are looking for right now. There's a lot of false information out there about how to deal with COVID, about Black people, about politics, all of it, right? A lot of false information, but if you can stand from a place of integrity and build trust, those are the relationships that you build with that as the foundation that will take you further into the future. Think long term. You think like a human, but you always think like a business owner. Always.
And that's it. Because when it comes to, again, back to what we're saying, like including diversity in your marketing, including diversity in your business, those are things, it's about who you are. And so reading a book, taking a photo and putting it on your story and being like, love what I'm learning. I just learned about this. I can't believe I'm so, what I mean?
That's a really good idea.
Those are things that, like, telling people like, hey, I get it. I'm not perfect. And this is what I'm doing about it. Those are motivating factors for clients to want to book you. It's a motivating factor because, again, they get to know you. Those are things that are, hopefully, if you're doing them, important to you. And that's putting their money. I mean, especially millennials, especially Gen Z, they want to know that you stand for something. Nobody wants some big corporate blah, blah, blah. They want someone who's actually going to make a difference. And if that's not you, there's someone else who is. Like, they're happy to swipe and find. So.
And there's people that are actively looking. So like when I'm partnering with people now, I'll actively look. Or one of my favorite people in the world is named Christy Osborne. She's a marketer in the wedding space too. She does Facebook ads and analytics. If you are interested in that, go to mountainsidemedia.com. Shameless plug. She we're going to be starting to work. We worked on a couple of clients and we're starting to work on another one together. But it was a client that that could have potentially had a racial history, the company, not the people. And she told me, I didn't have to ask. She said, I looked. It doesn't have a racial history. This is the exact history. This is where we're going to work together. They are aware of changing their brand image and they want help. And I didn't have to ask. I said, cool. Because she is a white woman. She has integrity, though. Christy can work with me on any client, right? Well, one, she's a badass and she's really good at what she does, but it's that integrity, right? I love partnering, especially now when we all really need to come together to try to make this whole situation work.
Right.
But she'll be, besides the fact she's an amazing human being, will stand out in my mind because she cared enough about me to make sure I was comfortable. She cares enough about the client to make sure they understood their own history. And she cared enough to communicate what was right, what was wrong. And my favorite part about the conversation is she said, I put together their content pillars and their strategy. I think they're okay, but I'm a white woman. Take a look and make sure that I didn't say something I didn't mean to say.
Right.
And just the awareness there and the respect that she had for herself and for me, that speaks volumes. Be a Christy, right? Do that with not only the partners that you work with, but the partners that your clients, right? And out into the world. Show people that you proactively care. You're thinking about it. You take that education and you put it into practice and you show humility at the same time. That's how we work through this together. No one's going to come for you and cancel you in our cancel culture. No one's going to do that right now. That's where you come from, right? I'm so over cancel culture.
Because it's like half the time people say cancel culture, they're not actually talking about cancel culture. They just like to say the word, like the phrase cancel culture.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
Cancel culture, but okay, good for you.
Or like poor, like Like Wendy's. I was like, do you remember someone did something at a Wendy's. Was it that someone got shot in a parking lot? I hope that that's not what it is, and I forgot about that. Something happened at a
Right?
Wendy's. Do you remember what it was?
Well, Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta,
Was that at the Wendy's or was that at the Chick-fil-A? And there was a different one.
he was
Oh,
sleeping in.
that was when that was the Wendy's. But then they decided to cancel Wendy's. And I was like, that's not like I felt bad for Wendy's, right? Yes, they're a big company, but that they shouldn't be blamed
Right. It
for
wasn't
that.
he's there. It wasn't corporate. Like it wasn't. Yeah.
Right. It was, and so then we have to be careful then. To me, that narrative just takes new allies out. Because I understand that it's a different conversation for people. It's new. And if you feel like you are going to be canceled just because you're in a learning curve, you might say something wrong and that there's no forgiveness and no grace out there, well, then why would you say anything at all? And that's a problem for Black people. When white people stop saying things, Black people really don't get heard. So if Black people are propagating cancel culture, propagating the narrative, which I also don't like, of, well, where have you been? How did it take you so long to get here? And I'm like, they're here now. Shut up. They're here now. Welcome them into the fold. Let them learn and let them use their voice. Because if you keep berating them for their past, will never move together in a solidified, cohesive future. And that's what my goal is. I try to be very open with allies. I encourage them to do the work. I encourage them not to use me as their one Black friend. I encourage them to make other relationships with Black people out in the world. But at the same time, I'm not going to berate them if they like say something a little funky, like, and it's always well-meaning, right? Like you can tell a blatant racist. Racism has like a spectrum, right? It's not like you're like either racist or not. You're like straight up racist, like swastika middle of the forehead racist, right? Or you like are way on the other spectrum and there's not a racist bone in your body, which, spoiler alert, I don't think anybody exists in America that's like that, right? That's Jesus. So in between Jesus and swastika forehead, there's a whole bunch of biases that live within that space. So this new ally that's afraid of being canceled is not racist, but has a lot of implicit bias that they might not even know about. Hence the word implicit, right? It's not like overt in front of their face. So they might say something thinking that it's great, and it's kind of like a little, like, I see where you're going, but no, not quite. Definitely message them privately. Christy, my same favorite Christy, was saying that there's a difference between being called out and being called in, right? Don't call them out on social, on blast, on their page. They said blah, 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 blah. Call them in a DM, right? Send them a message like, okay, I see where you're going with this, but this is a little offensive to me. This might not be quite right. You might want to kind of tweak that wording. Good thing you can edit Facebook posts. Like, do that and encourage their growth, encourage their learning so that they keep being part of the conversation. The goal is to get critical mass here, people. Enough people part of the conversation that this thing keeps rolling. It's not just a news cycle that's gone by. It's a lifestyle. It's a marathon, and the marathon continues. And that's what we're trying to do with the anti-racism discussions.
Absolutely. And I mean, going back to your example, which I think is great, like if you're a 6-year-old and you're riding a bike,
Mm-hmm.
if you're an adult and you're riding a bike, it doesn't matter. If you're riding a bike, what are you going to be like? Nice job. You suck. You should not be riding a bike. Like, no, you wouldn't say that. I'm going to cancel you from all bikes. Like, no, like, that's not how it works. That's not, like, again, it's like people, this is like this. Somehow in the rest of your life, you find this to be common sense. Let's apply it to this, because guess what? It's the same. If you're learning something new, it's the same way. Like, we should treat each other the same way. Like, you're not going to yell at your 6-year-old for not knowing how to ride a bike.
Right.
And
right.
you're not going to be mad that they're using training wheels.
Right.
You're like,
right.
And you walk them, hold the seat for them, right? and they aren't going to get it right away. And that's okay, because you care about
Right.
yourself. You care about their journey. You don't want them to fall down and get hurt. Like, those are things that you should, again, as a friend, like, one of the things that I think is important, ally is a great word, but friend is a better word. Like,
Friend is a much better word.
if you're just a friend, like, hey, I just want to be a friend. Like,
Yeah.
we don't have to be besties and, like, go drinking every night for dinner with your wine, but
Good.
it would be good. But I just want to be like, I want to be kind. I want to be a friend to you, right? Like that. And again, being a friend has to do with what you're doing to other people. And I think it's important to make sure that if you are, and this goes back to the marketing, even like understanding that if you're trying to connect with someone, it's about being a friend. It's not just about like, I'm a business, you're the client. It's really about making that connection. And the same way that you make a connection with anyone else, you want to be kind, you want to be thoughtful. You don't, I mean, it doesn't, you don't have the same friends, like they're not all at the same level, right? You have some friends that are really, really close, and then, and you have some.
It's a spectrum. There's a spectrum.
Really. So it's like, why is that so different? Why is that not applied to the rest of your life?
Right.
And then you could actually benefit, and other people could too. Like,
yeah. And I like friend better than ally, because ally has a connotation that I need you to fight for me. And I do, in this conversation, you do need to use your voice, but you need to be a friend first. You can't fight for something that you don't understand, right? Or you're just going to get riddled with bullets from both sides, most likely, right? So you need to be able to be that friend first. And I love that. And because friend has connotations of compassion. And I think that is one thing and I know I've already said this, but you need to work through a place of compassion, not a place of pity. I'm just seeing so much of it where people are stepping from the implicit bias role to the white savior role, and they're still not realizing that they're centering themselves in the conversation, and it's not about you. Sorry, it's about black people. And white people are super used to everything being about them, but this one's not about you. It's about black people. And you have to be able to realize that you are in the background in the conversation, rooting everybody on, making the calls, but the people that are being celebrated should not be you. Yes, I'm very grateful for allies coming and having parts of the conversation, and I'm say thank you, and I'm saying thank you now, and I'm saying keep going. But the people we should be uplifting are the black people. The faces I should be seeing as part of this are black people. You want to celebrate someone, pick a black person in our industry and hold them up. Pick a black wedding planner and post them on your page instead of yourself talking about how great you are to black people. Talk about the black person that is right down the street in your industry and be like, oh my gosh, I just saw her do this kick-ass event. I want to tell you about it. She pivoted to micro weddings. It was intimate. It was special. And I'm just rooting her on. That's how you support, not a picture of your white face, which I'm sure is beautiful, talking about Black Lives Matter in your caption. That's not, you're lifting yourself up, right? And you need to be lifting black people up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh my!
Even we have so many soapboxes.
I love it. I love it. I like conversations, because it's like, one, it's important for people to understand that, like, everybody that I have on, it's like, it's a conversation. And guess what? The same way that we're having a conversation, if they DM you, they can have a conversation with you too. Like, you're not
absolutely
like face photo. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no. Don't let my slick profile pictures fool you.
She's like,
and that green dress that I have everywhere. I'm a real human being. Thank you.
I would look for a green dress, but you can rock it. I'm like, that.
Thank you.
But like, I want people to understand, like, these are conversations. In the same way that we have a conversation, you can have a conversation with someone else, or you can contact the people that I have on the line. Have conversations with them, because guess what? They're happy to talk to you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If you're like, I don't have any black friends, I don't know of anybody in the industry who's black. Guess what? I've had quite a few on our lives, and you can contact any of them and talk to them, because guess what? You were part of this first conversation with us. And I think that's it leads that, it opens the door for people so that they can be like, oh, I guess that wasn't too bad. Like, I think I could probably talk to Aleya and, have a conversation. Yeah, because
Absolutely.
she's a normal human being. Like, she might not
Yeah.
wine at dinner as me, but
Well, especially after like half a French 75, I'm heavy-handed. So I was teasing my husband. I was like, I think I got myself drunk and took advantage of me. Like, like, what just happened? We're sitting there watching an episode of the Umbrella Academy. The episodes are only like an hour, maybe like 40 minutes. I got through half of it. I was like, woo, I'm going to bed.
Yeah. I had a conversation with a friend recently, and we were talking about how, like, it's, when you're younger and you're drinking, whatever, it's like, whoa, yeah, you can do it. Now it's like, whoa, I'm going to bed now. Going to bed.
Yeah, I was like, I always try to make a point if I can remember to call them like on their 30th birthday. Be like, how's that going?
How's that going for you? A little different than the 21st birthday.
Yeah, a little different. A little different. There's some activated charcoal and water. You'll be fine.
Oh my goodness. Aleya, thank you so much for coming on. All like
Thank you for having me.
amazing nuggets of valuable information for people to just take and implement. And if you didn't hear any of them, you have to go back and listen to them, because you have to implement all of them. I mean, we said a lot, but you got to implement them all, because and I will come for you.
Well, and we won't bring wine. We're just going to sit there and drink your wine.
Yeah, exactly. We'll come and drink your wine.
Right.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. It was so much fun.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I had a blast.
Well, good. So did I. And hopefully I get to see you in person soon, and we'll give you a big
Hopefully.
someday.
Yeah.
Someday soon.
Someday soon.
But you can find Aleya on at Flourish Marketing Co.
.co. or at Aleya Harris.
And then and you can DM her and have a conversation, and she's all yours.
I'm all yours. Because what's your story?
I haven't even had a drink, people. This is me totally sober.
Totally sober.
Oh my God.
I might be a little sleep drunk. I've been up since 5 unexpectedly, and it's like 4 o'clock here. So I'm a little teetering on it. But
well, I hope you can make it through the rest of the night.
Thank you.
For you.
No more French 75s. No, I'm good.
Love it. All right, well, have a great night. Thanks again so much for being here.
Thank you. Bye.